This is Max Shears for Pro Boxing Fans. I'd like to join as always by Dave Coldwell. Dave, I've seen you quite a lot recently. Um, First of all, the sun's out, boxing's at a good place. The World Cup's about to start. I'm not the biggest football guy, but it's a good time right now to be in Britain, isn't it?
It actually is, yeah, yeah. I'm excited about the World Cup. Been a bit low key, but yeah, I'm a big football fan. Obviously, a big boxing fan. Boxing's flying at the moment, but we always seem to have that little bit of controversy, don't we?
Definitely. We're going to get into that. I mean, just overall, I think what we've learned is in boxing, anything can happen now. Just talking about even just the card, the pyramids, everything. Boxing's in a mad place right now, isn't it?
How good did that setting look?
It
I mean,
looked
it
pretty
was
good.
amazing. Like, really, really was amazing. I remember when there was, they did the New York one, the Times Square one, and that was all right. But I think, just the logistics of it made it, it didn't look as good as I think what we thought it was going to do. This was absolutely spectacular. One of the best the best backdrop I've ever seen to a boxing event. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, and it was an interesting show as well. Interesting show.
Definitely. I'm going to go through the card, but I'll start at the main event. Again, it's the sad reality of boxing is when there's controversy, that is the main talking point. I mean, first of all, the stoppage, I've spoke to quite a few people this morning. Some people have said it was wrong, some people have said it was correct. For you, thoughts on the stoppage?
The problem is for me is the bell goes.
Yeah.
The bell goes and he puts his arms in between. Now that can be just to stop punching it end around. Even if he thinks he's about to stop it as he starts getting closer, when the bell goes, he can change his mind and go, do you know what? I'm common sense. He's got a minute. Let's see how he recovers.
Mm.
Give him that minute in the corner with Peter Fury and his team and see if he recovers. When the bell goes, we've seen it before where a fighter's had a sustained beating, goes back to the corner, and then before the start of the next round, they've even got a doctor in to have a look at it before the round commences. We've seen that before, so you can't say it's not something that can happen in boxing. But he's in a position where he can give him the minute and then assess and say when he gets up off the stool, see how his legs are. If they have a wobble and everything, stop it, no problem. I actually think that Usyk had got him then. He wasn't going to let him off the hook and he was going to stop him. He looked completely spent. I know people have said, "Oh, in kickboxing, he's been out before he's come back." Boxers do get hurt and come back, but that's the intrigue, and that's what I think for the previous, for the duration of the fight, for the 11 rounds of the fight, I think he'd earned the right to be given that opportunity to see whether he could recover after the minute's break, and if he couldn't, then he couldn't, but at least the questions are answered. And also, I think if the ref makes that decision, it takes away the pressure from himself because he he knows that the bell's gone, and you've still decided to stop the fight. You know you're going to bring a whole ton of shit on top of yourself for doing that. You can kind of like make that call and change your mind and abort it and go right. Minutes ready, go on, off we go. And it gives him an opportunity. But listen, it happened. Like I said, I do think he was spent. I think it's spoiled for both. Obviously, Rico's not had the opportunity to prove that he can get through that and come back. But also for Usyk, because Usyk had a horrendous night in there. One of those nights where things just aren't going your way. You can't do nothing. Nothing seems to be coming off. Um, he's behind. I mean, I've seen the scorecards. I don't know how. I don't think it was as wide as what television was making it out to be. But I do think he was losing the fight, and it did need that stoppage, or knockdowns. Um, and I think it robs us of one of those great dramatic moments. We've seen it with James Toney in the past, where he's come back, he's behind on scorecards, or he's got a cut, and he comes back. Fighters have done that throughout history. We've seen those dramatic moments. There's nothing more dramatic than somebody who's behind and pulls off a last round, a late stoppage. And we were robbed of that. And Usyk was robbed of that because he'd done unbelievably well to come back and actually get a foothold in that fight. because it looked like it was just running away from him all night. So I feel as though both fighters, in their own way, were robbed.
Definitely. Obviously, it is obviously going to be a tough one for Rico Verhoeven to wake up today not as the winner of that fight. But I do want to touch on, I mean, the work with Peter Fury. This is
Yeah.
his first fight in boxing, I think, 12 years. I mean, how good was Rico Verhoeven? And also, like, in that first round, I don't know about you, but you look at him and he doesn't look like a conventional boxer at all. And I'm watching it round two.
But
He's
that's,
landing here. Round three, he's landing. Like, how good did he actually do last night?
you know what? That's something we talk about in the gyms, right? And fighters will tell you sometimes sparring or or fighting, but
Mm.
I'm talking about the conversation we have is in sparring. When you spar with somebody that's a complete novice, awkward, they do things so wrong
Yeah.
that it can work. It's hard to get a read on it sometimes, and I felt that Rico was like that. I thought his rhythm and the way that his style was so awkward that Usyk couldn't get a read on it. He couldn't work out the rhythm. He couldn't, his time was off. I thought I thought he boxed really well. He boxed to his strength. I thought he was really, really disciplined as well. Um, he used his size and his strength so well up close, just smothering me. I mean, he's a big, solid lump, and he got that close where Usyk couldn't do anything with him. He was bearing down on him, smothering him. And obviously he's heavy-handed. We knew that he could punch. I thought he was fantastic. Like you say, it's his first fight for how many years or whatever. He's not a boxer, but as we saw with Ngannou, that can often go in these guys' favour because there's nothing to study, there's nothing to look, and you can't get a read on what kind of fighter. It's a surprise package. The element of surprise in boxing is very underrated.
Mm.
And once you've had that fight, now there's 11 rounds of footage to watch of him, then it's different for the next fighters that fight him, or or even Usyk in a rematch. But you can see, and there's that, and it's not even about respect, but it's about perhaps not being as fearful of the opponent because you feel that there's nothing about him. He's not, he's not being at a high level or whatever. Mentally, you can just not give them the respect that they deserve next time you do, or anybody else that gets in there. We saw it with Ngannou, put up a hell of a fight with Tyson Fury. Many think that he won the fight, drops Fury. It's like, what is going on here?
Mm.
But then he goes in and with Anthony Joshua, and Joshua gets rid of him just like that because there's footage and because they can see what he does in his patterns. Um, but yeah, a fantastic performance by Rico. But you've also got to say, I said in interviews, I've said on my socials quite a while now, I don't want to see. I'm a big Usyk fan. I don't want to see Usyk fight again because I
No.
feel as though time's catching up on him. Fall time's catching up on him, and people say, "Oh, he looks as good as what." No, you can. Time can catch you just like that. He's had a lot of hard fights, even at cruiserweight. But as a small man in the heavyweight division, that's a lot of wear and tear on you.
Mhm.
And I felt when I saw him in the ring in the introductions, I was watching it with my son and my missus, and I said, he actually looks quite a bit softer than normal. He looked a bit more fleshy, and he actually looked old. He actually looked older, but his movements in the fight weren't Usyk-esque. They weren't what we're used to seeing as Usyk. I've always said his movements less as a heavyweight, obviously because of the extra weight than what it was at cruiserweight. There's a lot more going off, but he's still been brilliant and able to do a lot of stuff at heavyweight. But then his moves, his non-punching activity, the sharp, there's nothing there last night. And he looked like an old fighter. It did look like a fighter. Listen, Father Time's undefeated.
Mm.
And it comes on everybody. It creeps up. It can just jump on you, or it can gradually you see a fighter start declining. But with Usyk, it's like yes, he looks outstanding in his last fight, but then last night it might be a mixture of time. It might be a mixture of mentally not preparing the same. It might be physically not preparing the same. Also, you got to remember when fighters have had a long hard career, when they start looking at an exit, they have an exit plan. It becomes very, very dangerous from them because you've got one eye on. We've seen it so many times before. Now, a little bit of blend of all that, along with a fantastic performance from Rico, a great game plan, and great discipline showed by the fighter. It's just a recipe for a disaster, and that's what really Usyk had last night. It was uh, a real disaster right until the end, and but he showed the fighting heart and the true nature of himself as a champion in that he gritted his teeth and he dragged it out, regardless of the controversial stoppage or whatever. He dragged it out and he made that happen.
I feel like as boxing fans, we get quite greedy, and even in the ring after the fight, you see Usyk, he's giving credit to Rico, he's talking about his family, and then you see he's forced into a face-off with Ajit Kabayel. They're talking about a rematch in Denmark. They're talking about a fight in Istanbul. Again, just on that retirement thing, it feels like people want to see Usyk fight until Father Time does beat him. I
Yeah.
imagine again, it's not what you want to see, is it? You don't want to see Usyk lose because of age. It's not what we want to see, is it?
No, and that's simply why I've said what I've said before. I've also said I think the thing that beats Usyk is age, is wear and tear.
Mm.
And like you said, they get in the ring and they're straight away jumping on him, not even allowing him to. Not just him. I just feel these days with all fighters, they achieve the life's work. They become a world champion for the first time. Straight away, it's what's next, what's next, what's next. There's no real time to enjoy the moment.
Mm.
Let fighters enjoy the moment, and I know it's the hype and it's the build of the next fight and things like that. But you know, let them just enjoy the moment. I mean, there was no time at all for Usyk to really reflect on last night in the because straight away, I think Rick Reno was in the middle of. I think they introduced Rick to present the belt, and I think he was supposed to be talking about the belt, the new ring belt or something like that. But then he literally changed the subject straight away to dragging the next fight, and then they just hijacked it. And I just yeah, I just think that things like that in the game now are a little bit where you go, it's not it's not right. I mean, listen, if you're a good promoter, you don't need to start promoting the next fight right there in the ring.
No.
So you know what I mean? Even at the press conference after the fight, let it happen. Do you know what I mean? That's not a problem. But right there in the ring, and again, I'm not saying you shouldn't get. I like when you do get these face-offs and stuff like that, but allow him to speak and enjoy the moment first. Last night I thought was a little bit too much where they didn't even speak about his moment, his night, that relay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds you a bit of even when Daniel Dubois stepped in the ring after Usyk beat Fury them years ago, and we know what happened there. I mean, I know I said sit in the moment and enjoy these wins, but people are going to talk about Rico Verhoeven and where he sits now. I mean, he's gone toe to toe with, I think everyone agrees Usyk is the best on the planet, and he has been for the last
Yeah.
few years at heavyweight. For
Yeah.
Rico, this is a completely hypothetical, but let's say they make Rico versus Anthony Joshua, Rico versus Tyson Fury. Is he on that level, or is size too much of a factor in them fights?
Do you know what? It's a very difficult one because we did this with Ngannou,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
Ngannou's a bad man in MMA and everything. Do you know what I mean? And he put that amazing fight with Tyson Fury, but what's he managed to do since? You
exactly.
know, like I said, the element of surprise is a big factor in these kind of fights. It's a big factor. Um, so it's without heaping loads of pressure on the kid. Let's just see what he does next. I'm not saying he can't start now making a name for himself well, he's got a name, but making a career for himself in the heavyweight division. But let's not put him straight in at the top again. Maybe a few notches below. You've got some good domestic heavyweights around. You've got fighters in the States that you got your Jared Andersons, your people like that. Um, that that sort of like middle chasing pack maybe, but allow him to get more experience. Because what cost him last night really was just that lack of experience. Once the wheels started coming off, and it's probably a bit. I don't watch kickboxing, so I don't know what happened, what did he do when they get hurt and things like that. But I think just the lack of experience once the wheels start coming off, that's what cost him in the fight. So don't just chuck him straight into another fight straight away where that let's let's see how good he can be by getting him the right fights in the division before he goes back in at the top level.
Definitely. I saw David Adley said that he'd won that fight. I think that would be interesting. Adley, Verhoeven, if he was to make that.
There you go. But they're proper fights. They're really good fights. Don't forget, it's two fights in on as a professional.
Yeah,
He's two fights in. If the same thing is we got carried away with the Ngannou thing because he'd done a job against Fury, they put him straight in, against someone like Joshua. If they'd have brought him back down, to that kind of level, then it's interesting, and then you see, he's learning along the way as they go along. Boxing and MMA, boxing and kickboxing, completely different sports. Once the element of surprise is taken away, then it becomes a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tricky because that awkwardness and trickiness from that other sport can can give you success initially, but then once you're in that field for a little bit longer, then it starts leveling out a little bit, and then maybe your inexperience, maybe the mistakes that you make, then start getting found out.
definitely. Just last thing before I let you go. On the undercard, two Brits had some success, well, a lot of success. Hamza Shiraz is now a world champion. I mean, the fight, I don't know how much you can take away from that. He got his job done and he did well on the night. But is it more so the fact that now Hamza's a world champion? He's really got that negotiating power now, hasn't he?
Yes, now that's the thing. Listen, Hamza, do you know what? I loved his interview afterwards because he acknowledged that
Yeah.
this guy wasn't, shouldn't have been in the same ring with him. He acknowledged that, but then he said, now I've got this. Now I can start getting the big fights. You know what I mean? It was a really, really good, respectful interview where he acknowledged that he got a touch because he did get a touch on that one. It was a bit like when AJ got Charles Martin.
Yeah.
That was a touch. But look at the career that AJ went on to have, and look at the names that AJ went on to fight in the division. It's kind of if we can get that way with Hamza, because Hamza can fight as well, and he's a really really good fighter. And what I liked about him was that he had that bit of that mentality where you'd get fight. There's two types of fighters where from the past where you see them where they might be world champion and they get this horrific mandatory, and either they drop down to that level and kind of like a bit of an awkward shitty fight, or they walk straight out there and blast them out there as if to say, what have you put this guy in with me for? He had that kind of like mentality. He knew he had nothing in there with him, so he was like, I'm gonna go out there and be absolutely destructive, and that's what he did, and that's the attitude of a really good fighter. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next for Hamza Shiraz because he is a very good fighter. He's got a great attitude. Obviously, he got a great coach in Andy Lee. It's exciting times. I'm over the moon for Jack Catterall.
That was a good one.
Really, yeah, over the moon for Jack. He's not had the smoothest of paths, but he had a big night last night, and it was a really good performance. Really good performance. I thought it was very good. There was no Tom and Jerry in there. Um, and he's evolving. He seems more comfortable at welterweight. He seems to be more. I don't know. I'm more confident in his probably his ability to take more risks, more chances. Um, he's certainly he's certainly performing well, and that was a great win for him last night. Into some really big fights now.
Definitely. I was going to move on to Jack Catterall, but you've done it perfectly there. I mean, just he's been at that world level for a very long time now, and I know he's got the regular belt now, but he'll obviously want to go and become full champion. Just how underrated has Jack Catterall been to close it off?
Yeah, he has been on. He's underrated because do you know what he's underrated of is his IQ. He's very very clever. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have him have my fighter spar with him. And he's been so good for the fighters to pick up things off him. He's very patient. He'll do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and he's very good at controlling the pace of a fight. picking up when he wants and dropping back down. But he's a very good fighter. He's not had the credit in the past because maybe perhaps a lot of times he's not been willing to to do more when he looks like he could do more. But his last couple of fights, he's been, he's certainly started doing that, and he's more of a fan friendly style. But more importantly, he's winning and he's getting good wins, and now, like I said, he's in the big league, and he deserves it because, like I said, he's not had the smoothest path to the top, but he's a great example of like just keep doing it, keep doing what you're doing, and keep going and keep working hard, and you can get there, and he's cracked it.